Now let's talk about the Scrum process. How does the process actually work? Remember when we said we are going to have a product backlog of prioritized requirements, and we're going to have a product owner who's going to make sure that they prioritize those requirements. So now the question is, how do you get the work done? Well, in sprints. Sprints are time boxes. That's a very key concept in Scrum, is that we work in fixed time boxes. They could be between 1 to 4 weeks in length. Typically, many teams use 2-week, 3-week, or 4-week sprints, but every sprint is exactly the same size as the next sprint. What happens is these requirements that are prioritized are sliced into these sprints. And what the team members basically take from the top of the backlog, and they take the smallest amount of items that they can, pretty much fit within a sprint they can commit to actually getting done. So again, the team members look at the backlog and they grab from the top of it items that they feel like they can fit within a specific sprint and get done. Now, what happens next is we have points. Points means that every item has a specific size associated with it. So as you can see, for example, in the first sprint, we have a 3-pointer and a 5-pointer, which means our velocity, estimated velocity for that sprint is about 8 points of work that we're going to try to get done. Points is something that we will be talking about in more detail, but consider it complexity. An 8 is obviously bigger than a 5 is bigger than a 3, and these points are called Fibonacci numbers. Think of them as t-shirt sizes, right? Small, medium, medium, large, large, very large. That's pretty much what they are. Now, every iteration or every sprint has velocity, which is how many points a team is going to get done. So the entire backlog has 48 points in the example that we're looking at over here. Now, why is it important to track velocity? Hold on a second here and you'll start to see the value of velocity. And I'm sure you're probably struggling and saying, well, why aren't we just using our hours? But take a second here and look at this. If you know that you have 48 points in a backlog that you need to get done, and if I told you that, based on teams' velocity, average velocity from their execution, which we're not going to use the first sprint because it was pretty low, they only did 8 points, maybe because they were just getting started, and maybe we won't look at the last sprint, you know, that 4-pointer, maybe it was just towards the end, so they didn't have as much to do. But let's take the average of the 3 sprints that are in the middle, 11, 10, and 15 points. Well, that comes out to an average of 12 points, roughly 12 points. As an average sprint velocity. That's a good number to know. That's a really good number, because now that you know that you have 48 points in your entire backlog and that you have 12 points per iteration or per sprint that is your velocity, you can figure out easily how many sprints will it take to try to get this product done. So taking our 48 points and dividing it by 12 points, which is our estimated velocity, it would be safe to assume you need 4 sprints to get that backlog done. Now, if you actually go out there and promise someone it's going to take 4 sprints, you're making a big mistake, because then you don't have any buffering. And we'll talk about buffering later on, which is you need additional sprints. As you could see in the example over here, even though it was 48 points, it actually took probably about 6 sprints or 5 sprints to get it done, because the first sprint was a little bit slow and the last sprint didn't have as many points in it. Once you're able to calculate velocity and to measure velocity, here's where the burn-up charts come on. And a burn-up chart or burn-down chart in this example is where the team started with 48 points that they have to get done. Every sprint, whatever points they actually get done, they begin to burn down the chart. And this is a way to show visibility in terms of what's really getting done, which means that if you went for 2 sprints and didn't get anything done, you didn't get anything actually accepted by the product owner, then your line would be straight, and that would show that you're stalling, that you're not able to deliver value yet. So this example over here is a release burn down chart, and it means that from sprint to sprint to sprint, you're seeing how many points are actually being delivered all the way until we deliver value at the end. Now let's talk about the Scrum Ceremonies, and there's 4 of them. The ceremonies are the most popular meetings, right? Those are the meetings that you probably hear about all the time. So let's take again our backlog and our sprint, and let's just zoom in into sprint number 2 and look at a day in the life of sprint number 2. What would really be happening? Well, day 1 is something called a sprint planning meeting. The goal of the sprint planning meeting is to confirm the priorities that we have for our backlog. So here's the actual stories that the team is going to commit to getting done. Product owner is definitely there to say, yep, this is my top priority. These are the items that I need to get done. Discuss it, talk about it in more detail, and the team makes their commitment to say, yep, I think this is what we can get done, and let's go ahead and break it down into tasks. So in order for this to get done, someone's going to have to create a user interface, someone's going to have to write some code, do unit testing, someone else will have to test, whatever the tasks are to get that item to done. That's the goal of the sprint planning meeting. Again, it's to confirm the priority, for the team to discuss the requirements in more detail with our product owner, and then for the team to break down the work into actual tasks and probably size those tasks in terms of hours. Our next ceremony is the daily Scrum meeting. The daily Scrum meeting is where the team members get together every day and they answer 3 questions, and they don't answer it to the Scrum Master, they answer it to themselves. What did I work on yesterday that I completed? What am I working on today? And what is slowing me down, or what impediments do I have? So the 3 questions is really focused around accomplishments for yesterday, what do I hope to accomplish today, and what is stopping me? This is an extremely important meeting. It can only be 15 minutes in length. It's called the stand-up because everyone needs to stand up and not get comfy and sit down. And it's where the Scrum Master and the rest of the team can hear about impediments, things that are slowing us down. Impediments are the root cause of killing a lot of projects. And so that's why in the Scrum spirit of visibility and inspection and adaptation, every single day we have to inspect and we have to provide visibility into what's going on. So the daily stand-up is one of the most critical meetings in Scrum. Now, our next ceremony is the sprint review meetings. It's the demo. It's where we show what we actually got done. So Tom Cruise said, show me the money. In this case over here, we say, show me some stories that are actually done, right? You got to show me progress. So this is the show and tell. Now, even if you have nothing to show, you still need to schedule it, and it still needs to be at the end of the sprint. And when you come there, you can report that, sorry, we didn't get anything done, and the reason we didn't is because we had these impediments, and this is what slowed us down, and this is why we couldn't accomplish anything. So I had a team once ask me, can I cancel the sprint review meeting if I have nothing to show? Well, no, because it's a review for what happened in that sprint. You should still come and you should at least report what slowed you down and maybe why the team weren't able to accomplish everything they had hoped for. The last ceremony that's very, very important is the retrospective. The retrospective is the meeting where we go through what worked well and what needs to be improved. This is the heart of inspection and adaptation within Scrum. So we'll look at the last sprint and say, what's been going well? Are our daily stand-ups healthy? Is the product owner engaged? Are the requirements at the right level? You know, are we gelling with each other? Are we working well with each other? Or maybe one person's dominating and everyone else doesn't have a voice. All these things, whether they are team dynamics or whether they are actual processes, should be brought up in a healthy retrospective. The retrospective could be one of the healthiest things that you're doing, and without it, you're not going to be able to improve the process. So, and there's so many techniques out there for retrospectives, and we'll be covering some of them in more detail. And there's a popular book on this by Esther Derby and Diane Larson called Making Retrospectives Great.